Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. We have a wonderful guest on the show today, Yasmeen Turayhi. I'm really looking forward to a conversation all about consciousness, which I'm really passionate about, and awareness. And so I'm really looking forward to a conversation with Yasmeen today. We're streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're also on the 360 TV network. We're also on Business Innovators Radio Network, MSPnewsglobal.com, and many more. Let's bring in our incredible guest, Yasmeen Turayhi. Yasmeen, welcome to Brilliance Business.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you today, and a really, really interesting topic. So let's jump right in. You often say that most people are trying to manage their time, but the real lever in life is energy. What does it mean to master your energy instead of your schedule? And how does that shift the way we make decisions, Yasmeen?
Yeah, so most people measure their time based on linear time, which is, the time, the clock that shows, it's 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock. And so people manage their day based on their calendar. And so the idea of using your energy to manage your time is noticing where in your inner world you are contracted, where you're expanded, where you feel like you have a connection to the field and there's a lot of information coming through, or whether you need a break and you're contracted. So I actually just disagree with the sort of 9 to 5 schedule of always being on during those hours. I tend to work whenever I'm inspired to work. And when I'm not inspired to work, I actually disconnect from work and go find ways to become more inspired and connected with myself. So that's one way. And just like disconnecting from linear time and honoring cyclical time, seasonal time, the seasons within us, the seasons in the external, and really just kind of paying homage to that.
Oh, I agree. The eternal now, Yasmeen. Everything exists in the eternal now. And yeah, I have to agree. I don't really stick to a real strict schedule. That's a good thing about being an entrepreneur as well, yeah. I suppose. And also, I find if I get up earlier, I seem to get so much more done, but the day seems to go so much quicker. And I think it's because you're in flow, because you get up earlier. But you would think the day might go a bit longer and slower because you were up earlier. But I find it goes so fast because you get so much done and you're in flow and you feel better because you're more active rather than reactive to the day. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. It's either you're controlling your day or the day is actually meditating and flowing with you. So I really love that. I also love waking up early and kind of connecting with the veil. The veil is very thin in the early hours. So connecting with divine intelligence, getting clear about my mission, my path for the day, and then just letting things unfold.
I agree so much. And yeah, it's about listening to your inner self, God, the divine. I love that. Your work bridges modern technology, ancient wisdom, traditions, and intuition. What do you think ancient civilizations like Egypt understood about consciousness and natural law that modern culture has largely forgotten, though it is actually coming around again?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. My inquiry in like ancient technologies started many years ago when I would visit these ancient sites, and I was sort of blown away by the advanced technologies that must have been in place for some of these structures to be built. And what I kept noticing time and time again was there was a deeper wisdom with cosmic law and natural law, the intelligence of nature building in accordance with the cosmos, with the planetary grids. I think is very different than the way we've been building in the industrial era, which feels very much about extraction and just, pillaging and building it at the expense of nature as opposed to building with nature. And I think that honoring that sacredness, that I would say that two-way communication, I think, is the reason why so many of these ancient structures are still here today. The symbolism also is just so rich, of their multidimensional nature. They weren't just experiencing reality in 3D linear time. They were experiencing, and you could even see it in the ancient Egyptian temples, these like levels, the 7 levels. And so they were aware that their consciousness could actually expand and go into different dimensions. And I was just very moved by that. And I feel like like you mentioned, we're totally all, I think collectively, our consciousness is expanding. And so we're getting insights collectively into that multidimensional nature.
I agree, yes. I'm a big fan of consciousness and awareness. And when you study it and you study all the great teachers, it just makes so much, it makes so much sense. Like it becomes more knowledge. Like you're like, this just makes too much sense not to be true. It's a shame it's not a lot more mainstream, isn't it, Yasmeen? Because when you follow this kind of path of consciousness, and especially things like manifestation and things like this as well, if you were to follow mainstream news, you would think you're going crazy because it's not talked about. But when you really live by it, you get so many signs and synchronicities. You're like, this has to be true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think there's a dominant program that's in place in culture today, and I think that we have to sort of unhook from that to really honor the inner truth within us. And that's like a big reason why I wrote my book, A Glitch in the Matrix, because it was really to help people become more sovereign and aware of how deep the conditioning is in our culture of media and social media. And it's really hard to sort of know what's true, what's not true, what's mine, what's not mine. So yeah, that's definitely a big part of my path.
I love that. And you did mention your book, Glitch in the Matrix, and you talk about becoming the main character of your life. Now, for someone who feels stuck in patterns, circumstances, I think I've had to overcome so many patterns, circumstances, or systems they didn't consciously choose. What does it actually take to step back into authorship of your reality? Because it's very hard to break patterns.
Yeah.
It takes being so aware and conscious so that you can actually step back from it and then make new decisions and make new choices. So I love your take on that, Yasmeen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think the main character energy is something that's kind of coming across a lot in culture today. Like the main character of your life is a role that I think very few people are playing. I think many people, yeah, many people are playing like supporting character, or are not fully aware of the decisions that they're making. So I think to break free of the programming, it obviously, of course, takes awareness. It takes like just awareness of the negative thoughts that are playing in your subconscious and unconscious, just like writing them down, getting clarity around the negative conditioning, and then creating a polarity against your negative conditioning so that you're actually shifting that, right? So if you said one thing about yourself that's just a program, you would then take it and say the complete opposite to try to reprogram the dual nature of it, to integrate it. And then the other piece is like breath work is game changing for somatic shifts. Mantra chanting, even just like humming, is so therapeutic for the body. And then the last piece is movement. So it's all four of those things. It's noticing your thoughts, sound, current, chanting, movement, and breath work. And I would also say that most people just aren't as imaginative as they could be in their life. And so I think we need more space to imagine, to see like, what are the possibilities? What are all the endless ways that I could really live my life? And let's go dream and imagine a bigger one.
I agree totally. I've done a great 30-minute breath work today, so I'm nice and chilled out. And especially like you mentioned, when you're looking at old programming, you have to do breath work to replace the programming as well. Because if you're not regulated with your nervous system, you're not going to take on the opposite beliefs, because your body just won't accept them if you're not regulated. So it is really important to do breath work. I love breath work. I also do a 15-minute Visapana meditation every day. It keeps my mind really, really nice, and it allows you to observe those thoughts. Because I was going to say, I love what you said about just being aware of those thoughts, but it's also about not reacting to them. So everyone's going to have negative thoughts, but if you can just watch it and let it go, that's when you can redirect and then bring in the new truth, rather than trying to just like fight the old thoughts or react to it or start believing them. It takes just being relaxed, calm, so you can look and just let it naturally dissolve on its own and then redirect to the new belief. Does that resonate with you, Yasmin?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Even just sitting and feeling our feelings, I think is something that many people don't do on a regular basis. And so we just have so much compression, so much contraction in the body. And if we just allow ourselves to relax, and even though it's painful for some time to really sit with those feelings, eventually, like all things that expand and contract, right? It'll eventually move. So I really love that. I think it's courageous to do that kind of work. And yeah, couldn't agree with you more, Mark.
I agree as well. You have to feel these things because, especially when it's like old trauma or things that are quite uncomfortable to sit with, it's so easy to not want to sit with them and suppress them or push them away. Whereas if you can stay in, I call it your I am awareness or just awareness. If you can stay in that awareness and just allow it in and just sit with it and feel it, that's how you release these programs, because you realize that they're never true. Like you feel that they're true, and it's just like old programming. That if you sit with it, feel it, eventually it will dissipate and just naturally fade away on its own. But you realize these things were never true. It's just like old false programming as well. Now, intuition is often dismissed as something mystical or vague, yet you teach it as a form of intelligence. How do you define intuition, and how can someone begin to develop it as a practical decision making tool?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the question. My favorite topic to talk about is intuition because I think it's an underdeveloped skill set in the West, and I know that it's slowly coming back online. Right now, I think intuition is the number one superpower, especially in a world of, we don't know what's true, we don't know what's not true, and to have that level of discernment, I think, is game changing. So I would define intuition as your relationship with the non-local, with a field that holds all information, all possibilities. And so many people over rely on their left brain way of thinking and interpreting the world. And we have an overdeveloped left brain in Western culture, which relies on like strategy, analyzing things, linear thinking, logic, which is all great, but it's at the expense of an underdeveloped right brain, which focuses on energy, pattern recognition, symbolism, intuition. And because of that, I think a lot of these ancient cultures really had a much stronger right brain, perceptual way of interpreting the world. So intuition is, in my opinion, a way to actually develop that right brain, a way of noticing patterns, working with energy. And I learned this actually from a lot from my intuitive medicine. I did a 2-year program in intuitive medicine when we would look at the body and scan the body. And with our extrasensory skill sets, we would be able to see what was going on in people's physical body, right? And so there's a lot more going on in the field. I think a lot of people just rely on our 5 senses alone, but we have 26 intuitive extrasensory gifts. And many of us have actually been taught not to actually trust it. So my hope is that in this next generation, and I think the younger kids are much more intuitive, they're much more aware of their gifts, and is to help people remember their innate inner voice and intuition.
Oh, I agree so much. I love that, Yasmin. I've been studying quite a lot of neuroscience as well, and so it's like when you study neuroscience, it's like, oh, like what you think is happening out there is not happening out there. It's everything is actually within you, and neuroscience shows this as well, Yasmin. It's like color. There's no color out there. It's just the human brain how it perceives color, and it's just when you look at it, it's like there is what you feel is out there is not out there. It's your brain's interpretation of what is out there, and the brain. We're limited in how we can perceive things out there. So it just brings you back to everything is within you. I don't know, have you ever studied a bit of neuroscience? It's so fascinating.
It's so fascinating. Yes, it's like a radio dial that our awareness is like a radio dial that tunes to a station, and we could play like a really great station, or we could play a really bad one, or one that's just funky. And so it's really up to us. We are the operant power, and I think a lot of people have forgotten that. So that's definitely part of my mission, is to help people remember your awareness is you have free will over where you put your awareness, and that is your right as a conscious sentient being, and that's our superpower.
I must ask you, have you heard of the mystic Neville Goddard? Because I
Yes.
heard you say you're the operant power. I'm a big fan of Neville Goddard, and I just wondered, from the operant power, are you a fan too?
Yes, yes. I actually quote him a lot in my book. So he is a huge, I would say, figure in my life, where I've learned so much from him, and have actually applied a lot of the his teachings in my own personal life. And because intuition is one thing, energy is knowing that this is one thing, but then being able to apply it is really the work, right? Like to have a good life, to have a regulated nervous system, to not have any drama. So these are all things that I love to apply. But yeah, I love Neville.
Love that, love that. If someone listening feels like they are caught in patterns or circumstances they didn't consciously choose, how can they begin to shift their energy and step back into the authorship of their life?
Mm. Yeah, a lot of people who are stuck, oftentimes it's because they're stuck in the past. So I often tell people, like, the first thing to do is to just decide that you're not a victim, and decide that everything that happened to you at this point is exactly as it should have been. We don't have to agree with what happened, but we have to accept what happened, so that we can collect our energy back, come back to this present moment, and then direct our energy to what we want next, what we want instead. And I think a lot of people just harbor on to like resentment or difficult emotions or feelings, and then they literally have very little energy each day for what it is they want to do next. And I just see that as like a big programming for most people, is stuckness in the past.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I think when you start becoming more aware, I mean, my journey was painful, Yasmin. I've got to be honest. I went through intrusive thoughts, hypervigilant. Um, it was horrendous. It was like God took me on this big journey to look at myself and find my own self-worth, and put me through all of these things that I had to go through. And a lot of people would have given up, but I'm so like focused, and it was like, okay, so I'm gonna do this. And every day I would just take small steps, doing the meditations, doing the hypnosis sessions, and I worked with a neuroscientist, had CBT. I think I had every kind of therapy that you could possibly have. And I could have saw myself as a victim, but I think it's so important, no matter what you've been through, there is always some kind of blessing in it. And I'm not saying some things are terrible, but at the same time, it's how we perceive them and what we do with it. So I think it's really important not to see ourselves as victims, and take ourselves on that journey. It can be really painful. I know it's really painful at times, but the more progress you make, it does get easier and easier. And I think it's an ongoing journey as well. It's not something that you ever complete. I think it's a journey of expansion for the rest of your lives. But I just think it's so important that we do go within and start growing and expanding and being the best versions of ourselves. So I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Yasmin. I absolutely love what you're doing in the world.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your journey as well. I love the daily incremental shifts. I think that's so powerful for long-term change. So thank you for this podcast and all the work you're doing.
So, who should connect with you, Yasmin? I know you have an incredible podcast. You may want to mention that. You have so many ways people can connect, and who would you love to connect with you and share a little bit more?
Oh, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I have a podcast called Gateways to Awakening on Spotify and Apple. And I do a weekly show. I also have the Inner Knowing School, which is my school of intuition and energy mastery. And I run these group programs and one on one. And I also, I'm like, what else do I have? My book, A Glitch in the Matrix, just came out, and it's called 10 Energy Codes to Become the Main Character of Your Life, which basically sums up like everything I've learned from now 280 interviews over 7 years, all on natural law and how to connect with yourself.
I would encourage everyone to connect with Yasmeen. Go to innerknowingschool.com. That's innerknowingschool.com. Yasmeen, thank you so much for being my guest today. I've thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you.
The pleasure's been all ours. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.